Our twin was asked by her little woman why she looked so young, even though she reached the fire, or why she looked so old, even though she was just 65. And Mark Twain said, it's because she said, I don't smoke, drink, or cuss. How do I get to live life more healthy? And he said, see there, you're a sinking ship, and you have no cargo to throw overboard. As you've written, you've got the feeling on your first couple sermons you were a sinking ship, but you threw overboard some of your weaker elements of being a writer. Okay? Like me, you are becoming a better writer, and you're dedicated to doing that. It's not about the grade, it's about how much I've learned. Right? We don't want to hear about the grade, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to hear about it. And look, I'm happy if you write on the bottom of the sheet, they grade too hard. I like that. Because you know why? That means we are doing our job. If we did not demand rigor from you, we would not be doing our job, which is what? Making you better writers. I was at a conference call with LA yesterday. They said one mistake, you will never get your call returned again. A Hollywood writer makes one mistake. A producer suggests they follow the directions and make a change in a script. And if that change isn't made in the script, that writer will never be called again. Do you understand me? So if we're too hard, well, excuse me. We're just trying to get you ready for the real world. And you know what? You guys are doing that. And the grades are better than they were before. But I think we can do better. I mean, let me say two things, okay? First of all, do we expect that you read the book in this class? Yes. I'm not going to cover everything. There's no way I can, but it's right there in the book. So we expect that you read it. Secondly, do you have explicit directions for the assignments? Okay, in Hollywood, if you don't follow the explicit directions from the producer, what happens? You will never be called for another assignment again. Do you understand that? So if you got an issue about an assignment and you didn't follow directions, come to my office. I'll go, here's your assignment. You didn't follow directions. Get out of here. I'm surprised you got a C on it. I'm going to talk to Adam about why he gave you a C. If you didn't follow the directions, you should have got a C. A C is an average grade for the average student doing the average work. If you don't follow the directions, you don't deserve a C. All right? Now, with that in mind, I just had some papers here. Here is the second draft of the introduction to my book, new book. You know what it is? Shit. Steinbeck said the first version of anything is shit. This introduction will have to go through 10 to 20 revisions before it's ready to go to a publisher. If you guys didn't do 10 or 20 revisions on your radio assignment, I'm sorry. You must think you're a way better writer than me. Because for my stuff to be a professional standard, it needs to go through at least 18 revisions. Okay? Do you understand that? I mean, it's not that I'm just talking the talk, or that we're talking the talk. We want to walk the walk. Do you guys understand? So, the one thing I want to do is I do want to celebrate. What did you guys do better on this assignment than you did on previous assignments? Because they were better. And I very much appreciate that. What went more well on this assignment? You followed the directions, did you? Did you do well? Awesome, there you go. Are you being more rigorous on yourself than you were when you started this class? Good. Did I make it clear the first day that we would demand rigor? I invited you. No, I begged you to drop this class. If you're going to sit at the back of the room in a lab and sit on the computer doing Facebook, I begged you to drop this class, didn't I? Here we are. You hate me, and you hate these guys, some of you, because we have standards of rigor. That was clear the first day, right? And didn't I ask you to drop the class? And you made a decision. Come on, tell me to chill out. All right. So we're going to do several things today. First of all, we're going to continue to talk about telling a visual story. Did you find Downey's thing on television news? All right, we're going to do that in a minute. Let's go to telling a visual story. We're talking about camera movement, weren't we? Look, you guys have to know a lot about camera movement. You're not going to use a lot of it in your television news story, which is do when. Whoa, shoot. Oh, and that also, shoot, uh-oh. She didn't know what this was, did you? Oh, man. This is the test. When is the test? Wednesday, the test. You know when I say, write this down, it's going to be on the test? You know what I mean? I mean, write this down, it's going to be on the test. And if you write it down and you put a note by it, you'll see it on the test. I mean, it's the easiest test in the world. And as a matter of fact, it's only worth 50 points. How much was your radio segment to? 100 points. Because this is not a class on taking text. It's a class on writing. All right? But the test is right here. I'm assuming that these fine gentlemen give you a great breakdown of what's on it. Right? Yeah. I need you to look it over and make sure it's, what is that? Yeah, please. And towards the end, it gets a little loose. But thanks, man. I appreciate that. Rachel's going to look at it right after you do. What will I do? He's reading it for me, man. And so I'm going to take it. I'm going to make the changes. I'm going to print up the pen. I'm going to give it to Rachel. And we will be at 4th version already. You see, that's the process. But we're talking about visual movement. You don't have to know what we're talking about camera angles, okay? You can take more advanced classes on writing. But again, the key thing about all of this is that whenever you write, and I hope some of you, is anybody in 351 with me now? Yes, where we write films. Yeah. But we use the master scene approach. Right. So we don't say what the camera does. Whose job is that?
The director.
Yeah, and who else's? He works it up with, anybody? Raise your hand. Huh? Producer, the producer's sitting at lunch talking this future deal. But good guess. Mr. Director of Photography, yes?
Oh, I was going to say cinematographer.
Cinematographer, director of photography, director of videography. Him and the director, actually, is like what the camera does. We focus on what the audience sees, okay? But a lot of the stuff that I look at, the reason I've been talking about that now is we're going to television news. But what I want to talk about, we can talk about transitions. These are different kinds of transitions that we go from one shot to the next. Most of the time you see a cut. What is a cut? Yeah, you just see one thing and then you see another picture. Bam, it's just a picture cut. And man, when I was at NYU, man, we actually used a cutter and then we glued it together. Okay? And that's one. That's most of the time those are the transitions you see. You see one shot and then another. And that's what you're going to see in your television story for the most part. There's also fade in and outs. What are those? Anybody? Raise your hand. Yes, sir. Right, it fades out from a picture to black, or it's black and a picture fades in. Okay? Defocusing, man, this is a cheesy way for a transition. I used to use it like Gilligan's Island. I don't know if anybody remembers that show. Yeah, go ahead. Well, more what it does is it goes out of focus so much you don't recognize it, and then it comes back into focus, and we see something else. Okay, what you're thinking about is a dissolve. All right? Oh, that's the first one. But very good, Artie, right? It's a dissolve is where we see a picture that slowly fades down and we see another picture slowly fade up. Okay? And a lot of times dissolves note like introspection or passing of time. But it's one picture slowly disappears as another picture slowly appears. That's a dissolve. Then we have the swish pan. Which, remember, what is a pan? I talked about it the other day. What is a pan? Side to side, right. And if we were on a medium shot on you, and I would want to go over to her, we could do me on you, and you're talking, and then we move the pan over here, and it'd be kind of a transition over here. You don't use it that much. You're not going to use it in your news story, but it's there. And then a white. White. What's a white? Yes? Awesome. One picture pushes the other one out. Star Wars, man. Later Star Wars do this a lot. Like, it'll be like this there'll be a round line and it'll push one picture out. Remember Tool Time Taylor? What was the show called?
Home Improvement.
Home Improvement. Remember there'd be a picture and then like a house would fall on it. That's the most vivid example of what a wipe is, okay? A lot of times there's iris wipes. Homer Simpson says star wipes are the best. And that's just cheesy. And wipes are kind of cheesy. I mean, you know, Indiana Jones uses it, but they're trying to capture something from, you know, the serials of the 30s or whatnot. So, wipe. And then there's some other things. You know, I always liked in Austin Powers where they'd be like doing something, and then there would be a canted, and for transition there'd be a canted shot, and he would be dancing with the go-go dancers, and then something else would happen. He would be with Basil Exposition, who explains the backstory. Remember? Those are kind of weird transitions. And so there's other kinds of transitions that you might use, but it's kind of gives you basically some of the basic ones. I do want to talk about editing, right? Powerful, editing and meaning. Oftentimes in TV, like in The Daily Show, the editing is done live. In film, it's done in post-production. Like, if I'm going to shoot a bunch of shots in a diner that happen throughout a story, when am I going to shoot those? All at the same time. And then later it's going to be edited into a longer form, okay? Juxtaposition is important here. The meaning of a shot is created through the visual sequence. What is that picture up there of film of? What? Inception. And man, you know, I don't want to, you guys don't mind if I break the ending, right? I get to remember if the damn thing fell or not. But if they would have held the shot, I think it fell, didn't it? Yeah. Okay, what if they held it for just one more second and it didn't fall? And then they cut.
That's how
Oh, okay, it does. Oh, okay, so we didn't even know. If we saw it fall, then it would mean one thing. If we saw it just continue, it would mean another thing. And then the whole movie would mean something else. Do you understand that? That's the key here, is that this is the poetic function, okay? Where the syntagmatic access, comments on the paradigmatic access. I really loved her because she was beautiful, okay? I really loved the ship because she was beautiful. I really loved the girl because she was beautiful. You see how the one word changes the whole meaning of the sentence? Okay, pull this down for a second. Yeah, this is the power of editing. Okay, guys, check this out. You see a guy and he's got a face, and it's lascivious. What's the word? Lascivious. Man, I really learned the word recalcitrant today. What's in my mind? What the hell is recalcitrant mean? It means fucking authority. But I don't even know why this morning I woke up with the word recalcitrant. I don't know where it came from. And I was like, is it a word? I looked it up and it means fucking authority. Recalcitrant. I've expanded my vocabulary today. But let me expand yours. You have a close-up of a guy with a lascivious look on his face. What does lascivious mean? Kind of evil. Like what? I'm sorry. He's up to something. You got to speak louder. Desirous. How about that? Having desire. And often with the sexual overtone. But let's say you got a medium shot of a guy's face and he's lascivious. And then you show a pie cooling in a window. And then you show his face going, right? What does he want? Right? And so that defines those two shots. What if you have the same guy going, and then you show a scantily clad young woman dancing on a pole. And then you have his face going, doesn't what shot in the middle change the meaning of both shots? Now let's take the example of him going, and then showing a 7-year-old boy playing on the playground. And then his face going, do you see how the one shot defines the meaning of the other shots? Well, you need to make sure that when you write your news story that you're considerate of the shots. I mean, if you show a picture of Obama and then Obama on the campaign trail and then a shot of Hitler and a shot of Stalin and then a shot of Obama kissing a baby, it means something, right? Like, and if you put a picture of Gandhi and Martin Luther King and then Obama, wouldn't it change the meaning of the other shots? Okay? Here's an another example, okay? In Tiananmen Square in 1989, what happened was students protested the government. They said, we don't have enough freedom. So the way it unfolded, well, at least the way they presented it to me in my media, was they had a bunch of students peacefully demonstrating. Then they had tanks come in. Then they had dead bodies, people screaming, fires. Okay? Those three shots, do they mean something to you? In China, they showed people screaming, bloody bodies, fires, then the army coming in, then peaceful protests. Do you see how the sequence of shots changes the entire meaning? And here's just one clue. Do you think that really, when Sammy and Ronnie are fighting, and they cut to a shot of Snooki going, that they actually shot Snooki at that moment, and then edited it in there? No. She could have said that face and smiled a week earlier. But they'll take a shot and put it in the middle just to make drama. I mean, when they're giving out the Rose and the Bachelor or the Bachelorette or whatever the heck those shows are, like, you know how they do, like, show close-ups on the various women and what their response is? You don't know they were shot on that same day. That's the power of manipulation through editing, okay? Does that make sense? Before and after, proactive, man. Jennifer Love Hewitt has had a hell of a time with her blemishes. But proactive, before and after. I mean, she was just hideous when she had that zit right here. Was she like the People magazine 2005, most sexiest woman in the world or something? But oh, I felt hideous. But I used proactive, before and after. How do I know that it's before and after? Shit, if I wanted to do like a weight loss thing, what I do is have fun like you, and then I'd like feed you 100 pounds of potatoes and ice cream, and then we'd switch the before and after picture. And how would you know? Editing is power. So when you're doing your news story, think about the order of the shots that you present. Okay? Bring that back up. Because at first, man, they didn't even know about editing. Did anybody see Hugo? Yeah, in Hugo, there was this guy. I don't know if did they show the train pulling into the station at all? They didn't even know you could edit and put different things together. You could have a train coming and then cut to the woman tied on the tracks. And then the train coming, and the hero rushing towards, and then the train coming. They didn't even realize you could juxtapose shots. They just were like, well, let's shoot the train coming in. And then everybody would be, because they thought the train was like going to hit them, you know, because people that weren't ready for moving pictures. But the point is that this was an evolution. And the poetic function, that's a little bit too deep. Like it's going to be a test. Oh. But you guys get my point. I don't want to watch this. Go ahead, keep going. Editing and meaning. Meaning can be maintained, created, manipulated, or destroyed through editing. That's the essence of what I'm saying here, right? And so just think about the order of your shots in your news story, because I need to focus on your news story. Why don't you go ahead? Let's see the next thing. Did everybody get the idea? Go back one slide. I don't want to go too fast. Just the idea that meaning can be maintained and manipulated and created by the order in which you push the shots. I mean, and then there's poetry. The ship, the girl, the country. I loved her because she was so beautiful. Who was her? Is it the ship? Is it the girl? Is it the country? That's poetry, where you get to invest yourself and where you make those definitions. But that's some English poetry 300 level class. But you get my point. How we put things together. And to some extent, the audience members have to invest a little of themselves in it. This is like, man, the Art Institute, I already told you, they don't want to let me come in for free anymore. So don't go to the Art Institute. But Maggie's looking at Jackson Pollock, man. It's a big painting, and she's like 4. I'm like, what is that, Maggie? Well, it's a snowstorm, Dad. You guys know Jackson Pollock? He's just like splattered paint, drip paint on it. So sometimes editing allows you to fill in some blanks and for you to decide what it means. I mean, no country for old men. I still don't know if Sukar was in the room or if he was in the room next door when the sheriff comes. Do you guys remember that movie? Yeah, man. I mean, you could clue me in. You know what I mean? Was Sukar, I guess he was in the room next door, but it looked like the sheriff was going to open the door and Sukar was in there and the sheriff was going to die. And then the sheriff opened the door, and he wasn't in there. I didn't get it. They messed with my head through editing. And the Coen brothers are notorious for that. You know, there's a lot of ins, outs, what have you. I think we need to go. We did talk about, let's go to the next slide if you would, Jackie. We did talk about camera position, camera movement, transitions, and editing. As a writer, you can only suggest. But now let's go to news. I want you to go, and I want you to type in Derek Downey. No, in Prezi. Yes, Derek, D-E-R-E-C-K, space D-O-W-N-E-Y. Is that what we're going to talk about? Have you guys talked about that? Do you know Easy News? Yes. Okay? And I'm going to say it doesn't matter. Everybody look at me. When you write your news stories, what are the structural considerations you must consider? Raise your hand. Yes. What does that mean? That's right. And for a news story, you don't want it. Why don't you want it to move too fast? That's a good point, is that, and I'm going to say that's an excellent point, because we're going to say this, write this down. You don't include all the news elements in a broadcast lead, particularly a television lead. Why not? You just said it. Yeah, because I'm not, man, Homer Simpson can only retain one or two things in a given moment. He can't retain who, what, where, when, and why all at the same time. So give him a who and a what, and say it the where and when until he puts down his Duff beard. You know what I mean? So, hey, I'm giving you an answer to the question. Is a summary lead appropriate for television news? True or false? False. Because there's too much information. So we got to have proper pace. Not too fast so they don't understand it, but not too slow that they're bored. Somebody's going to change the channel, right? What's another structural consideration we got to consider? Come on, raise your hand, or we're going to have an exam. Yes. Clarity, yes. And what does that mean to you when it comes to television news?
Kind of like you're saying, not talking too fast, so people don't miss anything.
What I'm going to say here, big time, is that the picture should match what is being heard. Write that down. The picture should match what is being heard. So if I say, at Glenn's school this weekend, there was a freak air pump accident. What can I show as a shot for that? The school. And what kind of school? What shot of the school would you use? An establishing shot. A wide shot. And I have Glenn's school sign in that shot. Do you see what I'm saying? And you should show that picture when you said, at Glenn's school this weekend, there was a freak air pump accident. What shot might I show now? Freak air pump accident. Yeah, how about a close-up or medium shot of an air pump? Do you understand what I'm saying? The pictures should support what is being said. That is clarity when it comes to television news. Do you understand? Okay. Because that's what we're going to ask ourselves. Write it down. When they're reading my television news, they're going to ask themselves, what am I hearing now? And what am I seeing now? And you've looked at examples. You have examples in the textbook, do you not? Where little Sidney Lawhorn is discussed. Is it still in there?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And she lives at some address, and then there's an exterior shot. You need to describe, you're not going to need to do this maybe when you work for TV10, because you're going to be actually editing the piece. For our sake, when you say something on the left-hand side in dialogue, the copy that your talent reads, you need to show us a picture that supports what is being said. Do you understand? What's another structural consideration that must be considered? Yes. Yes. And what does that mean to you? That everything that you're showing is related. That it all supports to give you essential information that you need as a voter, as a citizen, as a theater goer, or whatnot. Who's seen Argo? Well, okay, well, no, I envy you. I mean, the friend I'm hanging out, we're going to study. Maybe she didn't like me in the movie, so. We're going to study. I'm going with her.
All the time.
Okay. I don't know what to say about that. Okay, maybe when we need to go to the movie, okay? Right? Have you seen Argo?
Oh, yeah.
All right, Adam and I are going to go see it. All right, well, let's go. Shit.
Right now.
Argo. He's going to be nominated for some Academy Awards. But anyways, my point is that if I'm doing a story about Argo, I want to say Ben Affleck, who made God May Be Gone and the town, you can show posters of that when you say that. Now is a blockbuster Argo, and show like the opening sequence of the Argo. It's about the Iranian hostage crisis. And then you show file footage of Iranians outside the embassy screaming and burning effigies of Jimmy Carter and the American flag. Do you understand what I'm saying? That it should all fit together, okay? What's the last structural consideration? And that's going to tell you how to organize your story. How do you think I would suggest you organize your news story? Yes? Ben Affleck. Oftentimes dismissed as a pot-smoking wannabe. Then had some free concurrence on days he could use as a starting gig. Matt Damon really wrote Good Will Hunting when he was smoking pot. That's the confused view of some professors like Dr. McHale. But they're wrong. So I introduced Ben Affleck. And then I say he wants respect. And he sought to become a director. And at first when he made God May Be Gone, they didn't want to give him any money. He had to get his brother to do it for free. But he made it and it got critical acclaim. Then he came through with The Town. How many people saw The Town? Did it not rock? I mean, it was a good movie, man. So now I'm talking about Ben Affleck, and I'm telling about the story of him trying to be a credible producer. And actually, in the conference call yesterday, they talked about how good the ending was, which I don't know, and don't give away, damn it. I like to go in fresh. No, about how if the ending didn't work, they would have spent all the money on the advertising. $20 million, $25 million spent on advertising. And the movie wouldn't have been at the theater anymore if they had to spend that money. But the point, I guess, is tell the story of Ben Affleck and how he made it. And how the challenge was to get rights to this true story. You guys know the story? There were American diplomats in the Canadian ambassador's house, and they couldn't get out because, you know, the Iranians had a revolution and deposed the Shah, put in Khomeini, and we didn't know how to get them out. So one crazy CIA guy, played by Ben Affleck, said, let's pretend we're a movie company making something like Star Wars, and we're scouting locations, and we'll go in, and then we'll just act like they're with our production company as we leave the country. Couldn't they get away with it, right? So he had to get the rights for it. He had to get the money for it. It's like a $50 million movie. He had to get the producers to get on board. I think my man in the Smokehouse, George Clooney, gave him some cash. Yeah. I heard he broke up with his girlfriend too, man. I mean, I don't live an alternative lifestyle, but if I did, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make fun. I'm respectful of all. Where would we be without alternative lifestyles? Michelangelo.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, Michael Stipe's one of my favorite guys, man. Turned out by people. We should make a documentary about alternative lifestyles, I think, in doc class. That's my stuff. My point is that George Clooney just rocks, okay? George Clooney for president. Anyways, you can put out your complaint. He loves George Clooney too much. I'll try that. But tell the story of Ben Affleck making the movie. Do you understand? In a narrative form. So then that last structural consideration, climax, and he made the film, and how much money has it made so far? Anybody got a phone? Look on, tell me how much money it's made. But anyways, that's the class.
Was it one of the structural considerations for writing?
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Thank you. Why do we want variety? You're right. I mean, I need you. Thank you.
Well, so are there five?
No, there's four. There's unity.
Unity, clarity, and climate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. God, check her out. She's on it. Okay, so what are the four structural considerations? Because it's on the text. Unity, variety, pace, and climax. Okay? Climax leads to the second big consideration I want you to learn is always tell us a story. Don't just give us the facts about the movie. Tell us the story about making it and how much challenge Ben has had to become. I mean, really, man, he's going to get some Oscar nominations. You mark my words. Something. Be it best actor, best director, whatever. I mean, the picture's probably already a best picture front runner. Okay? I don't know if it's going to win or not. I haven't seen it. Okay? But the point is, yes, structural considerations, unity, variety, pace, climax, which then leads to tell a good story. And we got confused. What is clarity part of? The 4 C's. And when we say 4 C's, what do we mean? Yeah, we do, but what is it? What are those? I'm not asking for the particulars. What I'm saying is characteristics of quality writing, right? And you're right. Clarity, which we've already talked about. What else? Concise. How much time do we got? Not much, right? And then what are the other quality writing? Correct, man. Don't tell me it's on Tuesday night if it's on Wednesday night. You know, the Republicans did that back in 72. They ripped out all the Democratic signs. I already told you this. And then they'd say the meeting was a different day, at a different place, at a different time. I'm just quoting the Nixon administration at this point, but they call it rat fucking. Remember they broke into the Democratic headquarters. And again, I'm only quoting Nixon, okay? Oh, bastards. Damn Kennedys! Oh, it's handed on a silver belt. No, I'm sorry. That it be correct. And then it be complete. How much money did they pay? $67 million. I think Ben's going to get to make another movie, ladies and gentlemen. I have a feeling. Right? Okay, thank you for the information. But it needs to be clear, concise, because we don't have much time, correct, and complete. Don't tell me in the news story there's a tractor pull going out on Friday, it costs $10, kids get it free, and there's free popcorn, and not tell me what time it starts. Do you understand? You're asking yourself, what do I need to tell in this story that's going to help? I mean, if there was a freak accident in Glenn's school, man, I want to know what grade it was, in whose class, because I got 2 kids that go there. I want to make sure that Woody was not involved with the freak air pump accident, and it was rated by the whole man. Anyways, let's talk. We were talking, we're going to audience news gratification 24 hours, cycle scheduling news writing as well, television news and drama, structural considerations, television leads, kinds of stories, organizing the news story types of news stories, style, copy, talent, building blacks, television news, easy news, television news, and ethics. Do I expect that you read the material in the book? Yeah, so you've already read this chapter, right? I mean, as you're writing your story, right? How many people took their radio story to the Visor Center? It was a good move. Do you think they helped you? Did they catch anything? No? A few things? So they kind of helped a little bit? You think they made any grade difference?
Yeah, from my last time,
Okay, so that's good. And when you went there with the assignment, hopefully they pointed out some stuff that at least you could ask yourself some questions. Did you go to Visor Center? No. I appreciate your honesty. If I was, as an undergrad, I was like the 4th degree, and I went back for an undergrad again to write history. But I always did everything to the Visor Center. Why not? I already paid them. Why not get over 2 days early and have somebody read it for me? He just read at the beginning of that for me. Thank you. You didn't have to pay it for it. I appreciate it. I need my stuff improved. You guys may be in a whole different class. You guys may be better than Steinbeck and Hemingway. But they needed editors. Stephen King has a number of editors. What do you guys need? This is called facetiousness. It's another word for the day. Go to the first slide. Because we already talked about most of the important things here. Television news and gratifications. We watch the news for various reasons. I don't think you don't need to write all this stuff down. Just know that there are reasons we watch the news. Why do we watch the news? Does anybody watch the news? I occasionally turn it on, Fox first, CNN, only when I'm eating a sandwich in the middle of the day at my house, which is very rare. But I do try to catch the Daily Show occasionally. Because again, this is on the test. He may not tell me what to think, but he tells me what to think about. And that is called what? What is it called? just got that answer. I just wrote it on the test. It's there, isn't it? You just got it. What number is it?
It is number
20.
20.
20? Right. But he tells me what the news is. 23. He's telling me what the news is talking about. And then he'll give me a little bit of facts, what Romney said, or what stupid thing Biden said. Do you understand? Okay. So, but there's also information seeking. I want to know what's happening. Particularly weather, man. I mean, unfortunately now I just have AccuWeather on my cell phone, so I don't have to watch it. Man, you know, the most important part of the weather, guys, is the radar, man. I just want to see if the clouds are coming or not. Rain clouds, so I got Doppler, you know. So, I used to watch the news for the weather, and all I wanted, I don't care what the guy said. But I did have one student in here who was, like, phenomenal, a meteorologist. It was like, son, he said, it's going to snow this week. I'm like, you're full of it. He's like, no, the barometer readings, and Doppler, and the high pressure in the east. And it was like, it snowed, man. This guy was really good, but most of the weather people, they're not meteorologists. They're just people that read the teleprompter. And look, the clouds are coming in from the east. And the temperature is, the high today was 72, and the low was 56. Wow, talent. And that's another question on the test. What do you call the person in front of the camera on the right? Talent. And I don't know necessarily that they have any, but that's what they're called. Okay? Surveillance, man. I want to know what Charlie Sheen is doing, man. Guy, I've never been online when he was like hitting the rails, hanging out with the two goddesses, and he had the tiger's blood. Why am I going to TMZ online? Yeah, really, man. I mean, I did. I don't know why. It's like a train wreck, right? Well, I didn't know what others were doing. Man, when I was in Bartlesville, chasing, stalking George Clooney, the Bartlesville media was all about it. The Tulsa media was all about it. It's a big story, you know, because they wanted to know what's going on. Curiosity, wanting to know the unexpected. This squirrel water skis, right? From Anchorman. That curiosity element. Ultimately, editor decides what news is included based on these gratifications, right? Go to the next slide. 24-hour news cycle. Guys, you got to make news. And let me say, this was a problem with some of your radio stories. Tell us what's happening now. Now. Not school officials visited the site yesterday or visited the site earlier today. But how about school officials continue to investigate the nature of the freak air pump accident? You see how I suddenly made it present tense? That was a problem with some of our news stories. Radio. We're not going to make that same mistake with our TV stories, right? We're going to say, officials continue to investigate, making it now, right? Because there's got to be news at 5, 6, 10 o'clock, and it's always got to be updated. Always. Listen to BBC International in the middle of the night as I drove to Oklahoma this weekend, and I listen to it hour after hour. I mean, listen to some news, man. You know, I'm in Radio Free Missouri. What the hell else are you going to do, right? I'm trying to listen to Bruce Springsteen and Pink, you know. I'm listening to NPR. And every hour they would cover the story from Mumbai or whatever, and they'd update it. Okay? They'd make it present. News has got to be constantly updated. Do you guys understand that? The other thing about the 24-hour news cycle is CNN is never going to say, there's no news today. So turn it to the History Channel. We got nothing for you. They were going to have to make news. You're going to have to make news. Let me say this. We saw the Joe Amrine film last Wednesday. Next week, we're going to talk about writing documentary. What you saw is not only documentary, but how do you use a slow news cycle? Man, we had this one press conference you guys saw, and like nobody was there except the media. It was the day after Maggie was born. And I had already planned it. Nobody was there except the media. But nothing else happened on that Tuesday. So it was the top story at the 5, the 6, and the 10 o'clock news on all the network affiliates in the region. If you were a Supreme Court justice of the Missouri Supreme Court, and if you watched any news that day, what was in your face? Joe Amrine case. weather is better. Tuesday is a great day to have a news conference because they're done with the news of the weekend. Tuesday's a good time. You understand? And you know what? Understand that? Are you PR now? Yeah, okay. Well, in appreciation, I'm sure that at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday is going to increase the chances you're going to get coverage for Michael Jordan being there unveiling a new product. Okay? Because they got to have news, man. They can't just cancel the television news. Go to the next slide. I love this. Concise. You got a 30-minute news program. Commercials are 6 to 8 minutes. Sports is 6 minutes. Some team beat some team, and the other team lost. Drama. It's the same shit every year after year. Some team lost and some team won. Let's make some drama out of it, right? Okay, great. So weather, okay, 6 minutes where they tell you what the high was and the low. You know it rained if you were wet. Except that Springsteen concert back in. This guy came in drenched, and I was like, is it still raining? And he's like, no, it's not still raining. And he's wiping the water off. Like, is it raining? Yeah, it's raining. But they need to tell us all that on the news. And the most important part is the Doppler radar, which is like 10 seconds, you know? Then there's oddity, the couple that invents sunglasses for cats, or the squirrel that water skis. Now you got the geriatric story, which is the health beat story. A new line at the Pens makes it so it's even more safe to be at the country club because our citizens are getting older. You know what I mean? So now you got the geriatric. So what does that leave for local, national, and international news? 6 minutes. Do you see why concision is so important? I mean, you got to cover local, state, national, and international news. I'm not even counting the 3 minutes we're going to spend on Charlie Sheen's drug use and how many prostitutes he's got living with him. You know what I mean? Do you guys understand? Concision is important. Go ahead, next slide. Writing television story well. How long is your story? 60 seconds. Exactly. I have seen a local news affiliate go over and interrupt Katie Couric. No, the good old days. Well, Dan Rather still did the news. I'm sorry, I'm a Dan Rather guy. But where the local affiliate went 3 seconds too long, and it was like, Rather on CBS News. Like they interrupted the national feed. Do you understand? The seconds matter. Actually, in NPR, it's like, ding, it is 5 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Right? And that's when the local needs to go to the national feed. Seconds matter. Exactly 60 seconds. It's got to be clear, correct, precise, and complete. I already told you that. The audience got to be able to digest it. Some repetitions of important elements may be important. That's true. Go to the next slide. Tell a good story. Okay? Write that down. Tell a good story. Drama. Okay? You don't need all this. You've written it 15 times during the course of this class. All right? Pull this down for a second. You guys know what we make is the first assignment is a bow sock. What does bow sock mean? Write it down, man. Bow sock. What does it mean? Shit. Nobody knows? Voice over / sound on tape. Voiceover. So, here's your basic news elements, guys. What is the first thing we see? Anchor on cam, right? And then, maybe we see anchor with a box over his shoulder, or a graphic over the shoulder, right? Then we go to footage where the voice of the anchor continues, but we see other pictures. What do we call that? Voiceover. That's the voiceover. And they say, at Glenn School yesterday was a freak air pump accident. And they're speaking over shots we see that are externally gathered. Then it goes to sound on tape. What is sound on tape? Write it down. S-O-T. What is it? It's an actuality. It is a soundbite. You're right, man. It is a quote. We see somebody we see Woody McKay on there going, man, I didn't mean to kill the teacher with the air pump. And what else does it have? What else? We see Woody. identifying font under them, do we not? Right? Then it goes back to some other pictures of the air pump, of the playground, the specific room where it happened. And then maybe a graphic, full screen graphic about how many air pump accidents there were at schools last year. And then you go back to what? Anchor. On school premises, they'll be more careful with air pumps and give air pump safety lessons from now on. If you have any trouble with this, you can call, and then maybe a full layered graphic, and then it goes to VO, 1-800-AIR-PUMP. And then the announcer comes back out and say that, but officials say this is 1 in 5 billion that anything like this would happen again. Next story. Do you understand? So you have anchor on cam, anchor with box, external video with voiceover, SOT, which means what? And then what is it? It's an actuality. Then some more external video with voiceover. Then maybe a graphic with voiceover. And then you go back to the anchor. Are you understanding? Okay, let's watch this with the Daily Show for just a second. See what we have. Yeah, of course we gotta watch a commercial.
That old feeling started to come back.
On the other side.
Yeah, I thought that one was full.
Yeah, okay, what is that? Stop it. Stop
Don't
it.
worry that they're solar.
There. No. Okay, what do we got there?
Tonight.
What do we have? Anchor on cam, right? Is that correct? That's what you guys said. That's how I'd start my story.
Maybe we'll talk about the election, which may first happen 12 days from now
12 days from now?
in the great state of Ohio. Not sure if any other states are voting this year, but candidates are beginning to make their closing arguments.
Okay, so what is this again?
Through lyrics.
Anchor on cam.
The great Britney Spears. Barack Obama is saying to the electorate, "Give me baby one more time."
All right, come on.
Whereas Mitt Romney is perhaps...
No, it's not your fault. I'm talking to John.
Really? They're not sung by the same person? Are you sure? No, it's sung by the one who's the judge on the talent show. There's 2 music talent shows?
Just go forward for a minute, man. Hit that right there. Bang. Okay.
He doesn't just like picking
Stop
winners and
that.
losers.
Stop. What is that? That's an actuality. We're taking external video, and where's the sound? On tape, right? It's on the tape of the video we're showing. Continue. Okay, that's full screen graphic. You can use a graphic in your story. Is that correct? All right, go ahead.
Significant federal stimulus money, and 3.5 years later, I have gone payments.
Okay, stop that. What is that? Anchor with box. And you need to describe exactly what we see in the box. Do you understand that? It's a picture of Romney. Go ahead.
Not the same number. Oh, it's
Come on,
actually
John, you
8%.
liberal. Always picking on Romney. Okay. Now we just changed to a different box. Stop it. No, you don't have to stop it. I don't care. Pull down the volume. Do that for me.
8% vacancy
What
rate.
is that?
Still. Maybe
Come on, anchor with the box. Say, anchor with the box. Yeah, he's got a graphics.
22% of those companies either filed
What is that?
8 years after made investment.
Okay, there was a, stop it. There's a full screen graphic, and there was external audio sound on tape, okay? Comprende? Now what do we got here?
Try to find a VO.
We got back to anchor with box. Go ahead.
$10 million from Bain was a personal loan for Mitt Romney himself.
Oh, yeah, that is voiceover.
Now, for $2 million.
That was voiceover. Go back to it.
Was a company called Lifelight.
Okay.
Which received $2 million from Bain.
Okay, you see how we stop it. You see how we have external video. Actually, it's graphic. And whose voice do we hear? It's a voiceover. Man, I hate to say it, man, but we're going to have to talk about news just a little bit before or after the test.